Millions of people were shocked when rumors began spreading online about a supposed autopsy report connected to Dolly Parton. But there was one major problem. Those claims did not match reality. How did this story start, and why did so many people believe it? Behind the headlines is a fascinating story about fame, misinformation, and one of the most beloved entertainers in history. The truth is far more surprising than most people realize. In the age of social media, a single headline can travel around the world in minutes. That is exactly what happened when strange posts began appearing online claiming that disturbing details had been found in Dolly Parton's autopsy report. For many fans, the headline was shocking. There was only one problem. Dolly Parton was very much alive. Yet thousands of people clicked, shared, commented, and debated the story as if it were real. Some readers were confused. Others were worried. A few immediately questioned the claim. But by then, the rumor had already begun spreading across different websites and social media platforms. This is something that happens to many famous people. The bigger the celebrity, the bigger the rumors. And Dolly Parton is not just another celebrity. She is one of the most recognized entertainers in the world. For decades, she has been known for her music, her business success, her charity work, and her larger-than-life personality. Millions of people grew up listening to her songs. Others know her through movies, television appearances, and her famous theme park. Because of that fame, stories about her attract attention instantly. But why would someone create a fake story about an autopsy report? The answer often comes down to one thing: clicks. Many websites compete for attention every day. Sensational headlines can generate traffic, advertising revenue, and social media engagement. The more shocking the headline, the more likely people are to click before checking whether the information is true. Unfortunately, this has created an online environment where false celebrity death stories appear again and again. Some claim a star has secretly died. Others invent illnesses. And sometimes, as in this case, they go even further by claiming details from an autopsy report that does not even exist. The world saw the headline and reacted emotionally, but very few people stopped to ask the most important question: was any of it true? As investigators, journalists, and careful fans looked deeper, the answer became increasingly clear. The story was built on rumor, speculation, and misinformation rather than verified facts. But this was not the first time Dolly Parton had become the target of wild stories. In fact, long before internet rumors existed, she had already faced criticism, judgment, and constant public attention. The difference was that now those stories could spread faster than ever before. And to understand why people care so much about every headline connected to Dolly Parton, we first need to go back to the beginning, back to a small cabin in the mountains where one young girl dreamed of a future nobody could yet imagine. What do you think has been the biggest reason for Dolly Parton's lasting popularity over the years? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Long before the sold-out concerts, the awards, and the worldwide fame, Dolly Parton was a little girl growing up in the mountains of Tennessee. She was born on January 19, 1946, in a small one-room cabin near Sevierville. Her family was large, very large. Dolly was one of 12 children. Money was often scarce, and life was far from easy. The family did not have many of the things that most people consider normal today. But what they did have was love, faith, and music. Music filled the Parton household. Songs were sung at home, at church, and during family gatherings. Dolly listened closely to every melody and every story. Even as a child, she seemed to understand that music could transport people to another world. She later recalled how important those early years were. While the family struggled financially, those experiences gave her a deep understanding of hard work and resilience. But there was something else. Dolly dreamed bigger than the mountains around her. Many children imagined becoming famous. Dolly treated that dream like a plan. At a young age, she began performing locally. Her talent quickly became impossible to ignore. Family members, neighbors, and community members saw something special in her. She had a voice that stood out, but she also had confidence far beyond her years. Still, talent alone does not guarantee success. The entertainment industry is filled with gifted people who never get their chance. As Dolly grew older, she faced the difficult reality that small-town opportunities could only take her so far. If she truly wanted to become a star, she would have to leave behind the world she knew. That decision was not easy. Leaving home meant stepping into uncertainty. It meant risking failure. It meant pursuing a dream that many people never achieve. But Dolly was determined. The day after graduating from high school, she made one of the most important decisions of her life. She moved to Nashville. At the time, Nashville was already known as the center of country music. Thousands of hopeful singers arrived there every year, all chasing the same dream. Most never made it. Many eventually returned home disappointed. Dolly understood the odds, but she believed in herself. What happened next would begin changing her life forever. Songwriters noticed her talent. Industry professionals started paying attention. Doors that seemed impossible to open slowly began unlocking. However, success did not arrive overnight. Behind every opportunity were long hours, disappointments, and moments when giving up might have seemed easier. The world would eventually see a confident superstar standing on stage. But few people saw the young woman fighting for every chance she received. And while Nashville was opening doors, another opportunity was quietly approaching, one that would place Dolly Parton in front of millions of viewers and completely change the direction of her career. What happened next was the breakthrough she had been waiting for. And once arrived, there would be no turning back. If you enjoy stories that reveal the hidden side behind fame and success, subscribe because the next chapter uncovers the moment that transformed Dolly Parton from a hopeful dreamer into a rising star. When Dolly Parton arrived in Nashville, she was entering one of the most competitive industries in the world. Every street seemed filled with singers, songwriters, and dreamers hoping for their big break. At first, Dolly focused on songwriting. This turned out to be a smart move. Her ability to tell emotional stories through music quickly caught the attention of people in the industry. She was not just writing songs. She was writing stories that listeners could feel. Soon, those songs started opening doors. One of the biggest turning points came when country music star Porter Wagoner invited her to join his television program. Suddenly, Dolly was appearing in front of millions of viewers every week. For many artists, this would have been the moment to relax. For Dolly, it was only the beginning. She understood that opportunities could disappear as quickly as they arrived, so she worked harder than ever. She performed constantly, wrote new material, and learned how the entertainment business worked behind the scenes. Audiences loved her personality. They loved her humor. They loved her honesty. And most importantly, they loved her voice. As her popularity grew, so did her confidence. But success often creates new challenges. Many people viewed her as Porter Wagoner's partner rather than a star in her own right. While the partnership helped launch her career, Dolly knew she had bigger goals. Making the decision to step away was risky. Some industry experts thought she was making a mistake. Others wondered whether she could succeed on her own. Dolly believed she could. That belief would soon be tested. In the years that followed, she released songs that became country music classics. One hit followed another. Her name began appearing on charts across the country. Then came one of the most important songs of her career, I Will Always Love You. The song was deeply personal. It was written during a difficult transition in her professional life. What began as a heartfelt farewell became one of the most famous songs ever written. Few people realized just how powerful that song would become. Years later, it would reach an entirely new audience and become part of music history. But Dolly was doing more than creating hit songs. She was building a brand. She appeared in films. She launched business ventures. She expanded beyond country music and became a global celebrity. The little girl from a one-room cabin was now one of the most recognizable entertainers on the planet. To many fans, her life looked perfect. Award shows, fame, success, financial security. But public success often hides private struggles. Behind the smiles and the bright stage lights, Dolly faced pressures that most people never saw. The world celebrated her victories. Yet few understood the challenges that came with becoming one of the most famous women in entertainment. And those hidden struggles would become an important part of her story, because what happened behind the scenes was very different from what many people imagined. By the time Dolly Parton became a household name, she had achieved what millions of people only dream about. She was famous, but fame comes with a price. The more successful Dolly became, the more the public wanted to know about every part of her life. reporters followed her career closely. Magazines published stories about her appearance, her relationships, her finances, and even the smallest details of her daily life. For decades, she lived under a spotlight that rarely turned off. Many people saw the glamorous side of celebrity life. They saw the performances, the red carpets, and the standing ovations. What they did not see was the pressure. Every public appearance was analyzed. Every interview was discussed. Every rumor became a headline. Dolly often used humor to handle the attention. She became famous for laughing at jokes about her appearance before anyone else could. That ability helped her stay in control of the narrative. But even the strongest public image cannot stop every rumor. Over the years, countless stories appeared about her. Some were true, many were exaggerated, others were completely false. The internet only made this problem worse. A rumor that once might have disappeared after a few days could now spread worldwide in a matter of hours. Social media allowed misinformation to travel faster than facts. And because Dolly was such a beloved public figure, stories about her generated enormous interest. This created a strange situation. The more respected she became, the more attention every rumor received. Fans often found themselves trying to separate truth from fiction. One week there might be stories about her health. The next week there could be reports about her retirement. Then another headline would appear claiming something shocking had happened behind closed doors. Most of these stories had little or no evidence behind them, yet people continued sharing them. Why? Because human beings are naturally curious. A dramatic headline triggers emotion before logic has time to catch up. People react first and verify later. That is exactly how many celebrity myths survive. However, Dolly's story is also a reminder that public figures are still human beings. Behind the headlines is a person with feelings, challenges, and a real life. Despite decades of intense scrutiny, Dolly continued focusing on what mattered most to her: music, family, business, and helping others. Her charitable work became one of the most admired parts of her legacy. Through programs like her literacy initiatives, she helped millions of children gain access to books and education. Yet even while making a positive impact, rumors never completely disappeared. In fact, some of the most shocking stories were still ahead. And among them were the false claims that would eventually convince many people that something tragic had happened to one of the most beloved stars in America. But before those rumors exploded across the internet, another challenge was already growing behind the scenes. A challenge that affects nearly every modern celebrity: the rise of viral misinformation. Many people watching this have faced moments where others misunderstood them or believed things that were not true. Sometimes the hardest part is staying focused on your goals despite the noise around you. Share your experience in the comments if you've ever dealt with a false rumor or unfair judgment. By the 2000s and 2010s, the internet had changed the way people consumed information. News no longer waited for tomorrow's newspaper. It appeared instantly. This brought many benefits. People could learn about important events faster than ever before. But it also created a new problem. False information could spread just as quickly, sometimes even faster. Celebrity death hoaxes became one of the most common examples. Again and again, famous actors, singers, athletes, and public figures found themselves at the center of shocking online claims. A fake headline would appear. Social media users would begin sharing it. Within hours, millions of people could see the story. Often, there was no evidence at all. Yet many people believed it. The reason is simple. Strong emotions drive clicks. A headline claiming that a beloved celebrity has died creates immediate shock. People react emotionally and share the story before checking whether it is true. That same pattern appeared in rumors involving Dolly Parton. Over the years, various false stories circulated online about her health, retirement, and even her supposed death. Some websites used misleading headlines designed to make readers think something tragic had happened. Others went further by inventing details that were never supported by credible sources. This is where the claim about an autopsy report becomes important. An autopsy report can only exist after a person's death. Yet Dolly Parton continued making public appearances, giving interviews, releasing projects, and interacting with fans. The basic facts immediately exposed the problem. There was no verified autopsy report, no official confirmation, no credible evidence. The story simply did not match reality. However, many readers never reached that conclusion because they only saw the headline. This reveals something important about modern media. The headline often becomes more powerful than the truth itself. A dramatic title can create an emotional reaction that remains even after the claim is proven false. That is why media literacy has become so important. Before believing a sensational story, it helps to ask a few simple questions. Who reported it? Is there evidence? Are reliable news organizations confirming the claim? Do official sources support the story? In many celebrity hoaxes, those questions quickly reveal major problems. For Dolly Parton, the facts remain clear. She continued living her life, working on projects, supporting charitable causes, and connecting with fans around the world. Yet the existence of these rumors says something larger about our culture. People are fascinated by celebrities. They want access to every detail. And sometimes that demand creates an environment where fiction spreads faster than fact. But there's another side to this story. Because while false rumors came and went, Dolly Parton's real achievements continued growing. The headlines faded. The internet moved on. But her impact remained. And when people look back at her life years from now, it will not be the rumors they remember. It will be something much more powerful. As the years passed, one thing became increasingly clear. The rumors changed. The headlines changed. But the facts remained the same. Dolly Parton continued doing what she had always done. Creating, performing, giving back, and inspiring millions of people around the world. Yet every new wave of misinformation created the same challenge. Fans had to decide what to believe. In today's digital world, that is not always easy. A convincing headline can look like real news. A social media post can appear trustworthy. A video can gain thousands of views before anyone checks whether the information is accurate. This is how viral fiction is born. Someone makes a claim. Others repeat it. Soon, the repetition itself starts to feel like proof. But repetition is not evidence. The rumors involving Dolly Parton provide a perfect example. Claims about secret health problems, retirement plans, and even fictional autopsy reports gain attention because they were dramatic, not because they were true. When reliable sources were examined, the stories often fell apart. No official statements supported them. No verified documents existed. No credible reporting confirmed the claims. Yet, many people still remember the rumor long after the facts became available. This is one of the most powerful effects of misinformation. Even when a story is proven false, its emotional impact can remain. That is why responsible journalism matters. And it is why careful viewers should always look beyond the headline. Dolly herself has often approached life with humor, resilience, and optimism. Throughout her career, she faced criticism, stereotypes, and endless public attention. Instead of allowing those challenges to define her, she continued moving forward. That attitude became one of the reasons so many people admire her. She understood something important. You cannot control every rumor, but you can control how you respond. For decades, she responded through hard work, creativity, and generosity. While false stories appeared online, she continued supporting educational programs, helping children through her literacy initiatives, and building a legacy that extended far beyond entertainment. That contrast is remarkable. On one side were temporary rumors chasing attention. On the other side was a lifetime of real achievements changing lives. Which one would people remember in the end? The answer was becoming obvious, because every year that passed added another chapter to Dolly Parton's influence. And that influence reached far beyond music. It touched communities. It inspired dreamers. It encouraged people facing difficult circumstances. The rumors may have generated clicks, but her legacy created something much more lasting. And that brings us to the final chapter of this story. The reason Dolly Parton's name continues to matter long after the headlines disappear. There's something almost strange about Dolly Parton's story. For decades, the public has watched her life unfold through music, movies, television, business, and charity. She has been praised, criticized, misunderstood, and surrounded by rumors. But through all of it, one thing stayed remarkably consistent. Dolly kept moving forward. Her journey began with a poor family in rural Tennessee. She grew up with very little money, But she had a powerful voice, a strong imagination, and a dream that seemed much bigger than her surroundings. She eventually turned that dream into a career that crossed generations. Her songs became classics. Her performances made her a household name. Her work in film introduced her to audiences outside country music. And her business decisions showed that she was far more than a performer. But perhaps her greatest impact came from what she did away from the stage, through the Dollywood Foundation and its Imagination Library program. Books have been provided to children at no cost, helping young readers build a love of learning. Her charitable work became an important part of the public image she built over the years. And that is what makes the story of the supposed autopsy report so revealing. The shocking headline promised something disturbing. The reality was very different. There was no verified autopsy report proving the sensational claims. Instead, the real story was about how easily misinformation can surround a famous person. And perhaps that is the most important lesson here. A celebrity's name can become a magnet for attention. Once a false story begins spreading, thousands of people may repeat it without checking the facts. But Dolly Parton's real story does not need an invented tragedy to be interesting. Her life already contains struggle. It contains risk. It contains rejection. It contains incredible success. And it contains a transformation that began with a little girl who dreamed of becoming a singer and eventually became one of the most recognizable entertainers in the world. That is the story worth remembering, not the fake reports, not the sensational rumors, not the headlines designed only to frighten people. The real Dolly Parton story is about persistence. She came from humble beginnings and built something enormous. She faced pressure without allowing it to erase her personality. And she turned her success into opportunities to help other people. So the next time a shocking celebrity headline appears on your screen, pause before sharing it. Ask one simple question. Where's the evidence? Because sometimes the most disturbing part of a celebrity story is not what happened to the celebrity. It is how quickly the world can believe something that never happened at all. And perhaps that is why Dolly Parton's story continues to matter. The rumors will eventually disappear. The headlines will be forgotten, but the music, the memories, and the lives touched by her work can last for generations. And that is a far more powerful legacy than any fictional autopsy report could ever create. For someone as famous as Dolly Parton, privacy has never been easy. The public has always wanted to know more. Fans want to know what she is doing, where she is going, what she thinks, and what might happen next. That curiosity can be positive, but sometimes it crosses a line. A shocking headline can take a normal event and turn it into something frightening. A small piece of information can be removed from its context and presented as something completely different. This is especially dangerous when the subject is death. When people see words like autopsy, final moments, or disturbing discovery, they naturally want answers. But attention is exactly what these headlines are designed to create. The real challenge is learning to slow down. Dolly Parton's career gives us a powerful example of why that matters. Her life has been documented for decades. Her interviews, performances, business projects, and charitable work have all been widely reported. That makes it much easier to compare a sensational claim with the public record. And when that comparison is made, the supposed autopsy story simply does not hold up. There is no need to create a fictional tragedy around Dolly. Her real journey is already extraordinary. She grew up in poverty, entered the music industry while still young, faced doubts about whether she could succeed independently, and eventually built a career that few entertainers could match. That story is more inspiring than any fake scandal. And perhaps that is the greatest mistake made by sensational websites. They underestimate the power of the truth. The truth does not always need to scream. Sometimes it simply needs to be told correctly. For someone as famous as Dolly Parton, privacy has never been easy. The public has always wanted to know more. Fans want to know what she is doing, where she is going, what she thinks, and what might happen next. That curiosity can be positive, but sometimes it crosses a line. A shocking headline can take a normal event and turn it into something frightening. A small piece of information can be removed from its context and presented as something completely different. This is especially dangerous when the subject is death. When people see words like autopsy, final moments, or disturbing discovery. They naturally want answers. But attention is exactly what these headlines are designed to create. The real challenge is learning to slow down. Dolly Parton's career gives us a powerful example of why that matters. Her life has been documented for decades. Her interviews, performances, business projects, and charitable work have all been widely reported. That makes it much easier to compare a sensational claim with a public record. And when that comparison is made, the supposed autopsy story simply does not hold up. There is no need to create a fictional tragedy around Dolly. Her real journey is already extraordinary. She grew up in poverty, entered the music industry while still young, faced doubts about whether she could succeed independently, and eventually built a career that few entertainers could match. That story is more inspiring than any fake scandal. And perhaps that is the greatest mistake made by sensational websites. They underestimate the power of the truth. The truth does not always need to scream. Sometimes it simply needs to be told correctly. Dolly Parton started in country music, but she never stayed inside one box. As her career grew, she entered movies, television, business, publishing, tourism, and philanthropy. Her personality became almost as recognizable as her music. She had a very clear public image, but there was much more behind it. Dolly understood entertainment. She knew how to make people laugh. She knew how to tell a story. And she understood something that many performers learn only after years in the business. People remember how you make them feel. That helped her connect with audiences far beyond traditional country music fans. Her songs could make people cry. Her humor could make them laugh. And her personal story could make ordinary people believe that their own circumstances did not have to determine their future. That message became part of her legacy. But her success also created another effect. People began treating Dolly Parton almost like a fictional character. She became larger than life. And when someone becomes that famous, myths naturally grow around them. Some stories are harmless. Others can become completely false. That is why separating Dolly's actual life from internet fiction is so important. The real woman is already fascinating enough. She did not need a mysterious death. She did not need a secret autopsy. She did not need a shocking final chapter invented by strangers online. Her real story had already produced something much more valuable, a legacy. And that legacy would eventually reach millions of people who had never even listened to a country music album. Fame can give a person almost everything: money, influence, recognition, opportunities. But fame can also take away something extremely important: control. Once millions of people become interested in your life, you can no longer control every story told about you. Someone can misunderstand an interview. A photograph can be taken out of context. A rumor can become a headline. And eventually, that headline can become what people remember, even when it was never true. Dolly Parton has spent decades living with that reality. Yet she continued working. She continued writing. She continued performing. And she continued helping people. That may be one of the strongest lessons from her career. You cannot control what everyone says about you. You can only control what you do next. For viewers, there's another lesson. Never confuse popularity with truth. A story having millions of views does not make it accurate. A video having thousands of comments does not make it factual. And a dramatic headline does not automatically mean there is a real story behind it. In a world where information moves faster than ever, curiosity is useful, but so is skepticism. Before believing something shocking, check the source. Look for independent confirmation. Ask whether credible organizations are reporting the same thing. And most importantly, ask whether there is actual evidence.